Okay, so today we are with one of the cold climate permaculture leaders, thinkers, teachers,
pioneers,
Stefan Sobkowiak at Miracle Farms. And what we're looking to do is talk about some different angles that he doesn't cover on his YouTube channels and in his master classes and everything like that. We'll link to those in the description below. But you know, we won't steal his thunder as far as the technical aspects of everything. But what we're here to talk about today is the farm as a business, the farm as an ecosystem, and how it fits into your life and into your community and into society in general. So a bit of a different take. Stefan, so happy to be here. Let's go
Pleasure.
walk and talk in your farm.
Let's go.
Maybe it's not quite the right phrase before a video interviewing an ornithologist, but I'm going to have to eat some crow here. Stefan, you were right. It was way too much material to cover in just one video. Kayla, you are also right. There's no way that we could be out of Miracle Farms in under an hour and a half. It's more like 3.5 hours of walking and talking. But it's not my fault that the ordinary rules of time don't apply at the Permaculture Orchard. I grudgingly admit that it's too much footage for just one video. Our walk and talk ranged much more broadly than I had originally anticipated. We covered a couple of really important subjects that once I started watching the footage, it became evident that they deserve their own video. So instead of just the 3 videos that I'd anticipated, actually going to break this up into a series of shorter videos. The first video is Stefan speaking about how he's applied Bill Mollison's 3 phases of abundance from his original permaculture book written back in the 70s, how he's applied that over the past 30 years in a cold climate. This is the first video in the series for a reason, because this framework is key to understand if you're going to talk about how he's designed his farm as an ecosystem, how he has designed his farm as a business, and how he's operated them both. Anyway, enough of me talking. Let's get back to Stefan in the Permaculture Orchard. So as far as big picture goals for farm as an ecosystem, what is it that you're looking to accomplish on this site?
Yeah, it really comes down to Mollison's 3 phases of abundance, which is the first phase, you want to have an abundance of diversity, an abundance of species. You want to try as many species as you could kind of get your hands on. That's an important first step. Ideally, somebody's already done it for you, because that saves so much time. Because you try maybe 300 different plants. And whoa, you know, out of those 300, there's 50 or 30 that, man, this is really appropriate for this site. But there's like a weeding of, yeah, this never mind. So we did that. If you could look and find out what wild equivalent of the plants on your property grow like weeds, just grow like they're growing everywhere. They're growing on their own. Use that as already a great indicator. It could be blueberries. So say, yeah, there's blueberries everywhere. If you think of it like, yeah, that's what you want to start growing that. So you say, yeah, but they're everywhere. Yes, but not the cultivated equivalent. So if maybe it's blueberries, well, grow high. Can you grow high bush? They'll probably grow really well. If it's blackberries, you know, yeah, but they're thorny. You can't get it. So grow the cultivated blackberries. Whatever it is that you're finding, you know, you get hazelnuts coming up in the woods. Grow some hazelnuts. Those plants are already telling you what their very close cousin will probably do really well. So like I said, that you're trying a lot of things. But if you already start with, instead of 300, you only put 100. But out of that, you know that
their cousins are doing well. Yeah.
Are doing really well. Maybe you have wild garlic. Plant wild garlic. Whatever it is, think of what your levels would be and put those things that would grow like weeds, because you already have such a huge advantage. You don't have to be testing whether your site is appropriate for that species. You know that. It's confirmed. For example, hazelnut. These things
Yeah, I was looking
are,
looking at that. I've got I think 4 or 5 hazelnuts now, but they are not
these things
they are not that.
These are doing, you know, Grimo Nut Nursery.
Yeah, that's
so we got a collection, and I think it was 50 hazelnuts, but out of these 50 there's 2 that produce as much as the 48.
wow.
So that's what you want. That's where that weeding out. So we're multiplying those 2. I mean, these are okay, you know, they give you nuts and so on, but the 2 are big nuts and 6.
Were they seedling ones that you got, or?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's just sort of
we got both. We got selections and seedling. The ones I suspect they were probably selections. The 2 that are really doing well, because he probably said, wow, these are doing well, and they're doing well. But that's what you want to do. You want to try as many as you can afford, but I would say first, check that this is a plant that normally grows here.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I looked around, first of all, there's not much natural area immediately around. It's all cultivated farmland. But what I would do is look around the field edges, look around the ditches, and if there's any hedgerows, look there. What is growing naturally? That's always my first clue. Because if something is growing naturally, so when we look around here, and what I've seen here is grape and cherry. So when we put those in, so now last year we started replanting sweet cherries, because cherries do extremely well here. How do you know if something's working? That's basically the idea.
Yeah, you're the biologist in you of measurement and you know, and feedback. At what point is it? Do you cut bait?
Yeah, I do 2 things. If I had, let's say I planted 5 of this grape, and I see, yeah, it's not doing well, it's not happy here, because there is a here.
Yeah.
Here doesn't mean over there it won't work. So I always say, when you try something, try it at least 3 times, and try it in 3 different places. It's very different. For example, just here, this is, so that's our south. So this is the south side of the trees. Well, southwest side. If I put it on the other side of the tree, that's a very different conditions. It'll be on the northeast side of the tree. You think that's not a big difference. It is a big difference. It's getting probably half as much sun on the other side as it does on this side. So right there, for a same, let's say even for the same tree, you could test it on the other side of the tree. But your soil here may already be 50 feet away, maybe, oh, that's quite different. And maybe on the surface it doesn't look different. I mean, Canada's all glacial deposits, and things are not neat and squared away. It's a jumble, and it's a mix of everything. Your property, you know, if you have any hill, what's that hill? That hill is, well, that's the way the glacier dropped. Could be rocks on the hill and then clay in the bottom, and that's 20 feet away. So try it in a few different places first before you give up on it. This is called compass plant.
Compass plant.
I worked in the prairies, and I found what a challenging environment it is, and I just thought, you know what, this kind of reminds me in some ways of the prairies, because it can be extremely droughty here without rain. And so I just thought, well, I wonder if some prairie plants, and boy, the prairie plants can do extremely well here. We tried, the one that's astonishing is cup plant.
Yeah, I love cup plant.
And so this is another one in the same, it's a perennial sunflower compass plant. So we put in a test group of plants and find out what works. I'm not afraid to basically have mistakes cost me money, because it's like, look, I've spent enough money on things that didn't work. Having one more, you know, I'm starting to run out of things that won't work.
Right.
Like this is something that works really well now. Apios americana,
the groundnut. Yeah.
3 years ago, we had minus 34. 3 or 4 years ago. In fact, here's a good example. This is a gumi. I just put them in about 4 or 5 years ago. And 2 years after I planted them, these things froze. We had snow maybe about this high, 10 inches of snow. And anything under the snow survived, but every branch that was above completely died out. Like it just dried them right out. So these then had to come back from the base. But this was the first year they produced. And this was kind of like, I said the first phase is diversity of species. So I still am testing plants, and this was one that it was like, oh yeah, I want dozens of this one, because the fruit were so great. And I only have 3 of them, and I had one pick. I came back 2 days later to pick it again. Nothing left.
Yeah, the birds had found it.
The birds came in. There's only 3 of them, so we have a lot of birds, and they came in. They cleaned it out completely. Then the second phase of abundance is abundance of propagation material. So like you were saying, now you have Egyptian onions. That's what you want to reach. But for all of your top 30 or 50 plants, you want to get to the point where, if I want to multiply these, I got so many mother plants. I got so many plants that I can take seeds or bulbils or offsets or divisions or cuttings or grafting material. Now you've got them, like they're right here. I would say usually the second phase, which is abundance of propagation material, in the 3rd year, you should reach, because I say after 3 years, count on being able to multiply every plant you have by 10 every year after that. So,
and if it's not in that position, it's probably not super happy in your location. Right.
There's always a difference. Is this plant thriving or is it surviving? That's 2 totally different worlds. Thriving means it's doing well, it's producing an abundance of fruit, of berry, not necessarily in 3 years on trees, but you'll already be able to take cuttings from it. You won't know, like, is it the best to get cuttings if you don't really know? Is it?
Yeah. Do I like it? Does it withstand the 5-year, 7-year pest cycle?
Yeah, at least try to have tasted it. Like I have some that I did not taste, and boy, that was a disappointing tasting. Was like, you have to taste it and go, this is terrible, this is horrible. And phase 3 is abundant of harvest. So you reach a point where you want to reach a point, and I'd say, until you've experienced what nature provides as an utter abundance, I think it changes people. Because when you reach a point where it's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with all this? Like, you have such abundance, you go, we're not going to be able to use all this. Then you're faced with, okay, now you got to give to friends, family, give to somebody, or you could give it to nature and, animals will harvest or make use of it, or you could do a combination of all those. So as you stick with it, and then what happens is you'll find, oh, I got to pull out this tree, and I got to pull that out, and this grape, and this vine. And so the system is it could be self-perpetuating. Certainly it will be self-expanding, because I noticed the neighbors have trees that we had that, now they're coming up all on their own, just because once you create a nucleus. Yeah, that's why I say just start with 2 trios, because those 2 trios will want to grow towards the outside on their own without you doing anything. So that's nice, where now it's to the point where like some of that time is just it's like a horse wanting to just go. Hold it back, because it wants to go. It's a flywheel. You get this system going, it's a lot of work in the beginning to get that thing to move. Imagine, I used to have a little car, and I would jump start it. So imagine trying to jump start a car. It's hard to get it But once you get it moving, now you can actually
Easier to keep in motion. Yeah.
get in and jumpstart it. So it's the same thing with the orchard. That big amount of work, you got to recognize it's a perennial system. It doesn't just happen overnight. Good choice, good observation, save yourself tremendous amount of time and effort by choosing wisely in the beginning, and get it started and maintain it for those first 5 years. Like, don't try and do too much. I tried to do too much, and we didn't fill in. Like, we didn't plant everything.
Oh yeah.
Plant everything.
We made the
less.
same mistakes.
Plant less, but get it all done, and then, because that will be basically, it will give you what you need to self-perpetuate. It's so much easier sticking a cutting than planting a plant. This is a place for trees. There's, right here where we are, it's probably 8 feet to the water table, and it's 40 feet of sand. There is some gravel mixed in, but it's mostly just pure beach sand, but 40 feet of sand, but 8 feet to the water table. So you have perfect drainage. So in the past, imagine these trees had 8 feet to run through, have mycelium spread everywhere. This is an environment for trees. We've disturbed it. We've tilled it. Like annual cropping or even perennial cropping in here is much better than annual, but this is a soil that needs tree cover. This is a site that put trees, and you create, which is what happened now. Now that we've got enough trees, now there is actually a weeding that needs to happen of trees that are trying to come in. And that's where, permaculture can create change where you just think it's just been that way. I remember in France walking around in the woods and thinking, my gosh, that's what selecting for 1,000 years has done. Like the walnuts, you can crack them in your hand and they're growing wild. Why? Because people have selected easy cracking nuts for so long that the genetics just favor easy cracking. So that's like, we have 700 years of backlog of what Europe has had, and that's okay. We need to start somewhere.
All right, so that's video number 1 in the books. I'm guessing it'll end up being about 5 videos in the series. More will be released as I have time to edit the footage together. So if you want to be kept in the know, please do give it a like, give it a subscribe, and follow the page so that way you'll know when all of the next videos come out. And until we see you again, long may your big garden grow.